The summer of '77. Fear gripped New York City. A killer stalked the streets, leaving a trail of death and unanswered question. Tonight, on Crime Reme Podcast, we confront the enigma of Son of Sam, David Berkowitz, and uncover the truth behind the legend. I am Dennis Logan, and with me, as always, is Kimberly Carson.
Hi, everyone.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
What if I told you the city that never sleeps was once paralyzed by a single man? Meet the Son of Sam. In the summer of 1976 to 77, New York City was under siege. David Berkowitz, armed with a .44 caliber Bulldog revolver, unleashed terror, killing 6 and wounding several others. His nickname, Son of Sam, came from his eerie letters to newspapers where he claimed demonic possession. But Berkowitz's dark motives went deeper. He initially blamed his neighbor's dog for commanding him to kill, a chilling lie he later admitted. These manipulative tales only heightened the city's dread. Berkowitz's letters mocked the police, promising more bloodshed and keeping New Yorkers on edge. The largest manhunt in the city's history ensued. And his capture, thanks to a mere parking ticket, was a testament to relentless police work. Sentenced to 365 years, Berkowitz's reign of terror might be over, but the scars remain. Dive deeper into the dark secrets of David Berkowitz and uncover the true horror of the Son of Sam.
Today we're going right into the heart of 1970s New York City. Imagine a city just gripped by fear, a killer's on the loose, and the chilling nickname Son of Sam is on everyone's lips.
It really was a time of just unprecedented anxiety, especially for young women, because they seem to be the primary target.
Exactly. And that feeling that anyone can be a victim, that's what we're going to unpack today. We've got court transcripts, news articles, even a rare interview with the man himself, David Berkowitz.
That's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not just going to lay out like a timeline of events. We're going to explore the whys, the possible whys behind Berkowitz's actions, what made him the Son of Sam.
Right. Forget the typical true crime rehash. We're going deep. His childhood, his time in the army, that shocking discovery of his adoption, and even his claims of demonic influence.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. A chilling journey, really, into the human mind and how these seemingly normal lives can take such dark turns.
Okay, so let's rewind. Back to Berkowitz's early life. We have these accounts from childhood friends and neighbors, and they paint a pretty disturbing picture.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. A chilling journey, really, into the human mind and how these seemingly normal lives can take such dark turns.
Yeah, it does sound pretty normal. But then you have Berkowitz's own words. He talks about these vivid nightmares, this fascination with the occult, and this really deep-seated guilt, because he believed his birth mother died giving birth to him.
Right, and that internal conflict is so crucial to understanding his psychology. Like, maybe outwardly he was blending in, but internally something dark was brewing.
Yeah, and then there are these unsettling incidents, too, like the time he poisoned his mother's parakeet, possibly out of jealousy for the attention she gave the bird.
That's actually a recurring pattern we see in a lot of serial killers, that early cruelty to animals. Definitely a red flag. Should never be ignored.
Speaking of red flags, Berkowitz's military service also reveals some potential warning signs. He was a sharpshooter in the army, which obviously gave him the skills he would later use in his crimes. But he also struggled with this intense loneliness and feelings of inadequacy.
And that's where it gets really complicated, because not everyone with a difficult past becomes a serial killer, right? We can't just point to one event or personality trait and say, aha, that's the cause. It's this complex web of factors.
Absolutely. But this sense of isolation, of not quite fitting in, it seems to follow Berkowitz. And it becomes even more pronounced when we learn about his search for his biological parent.
So imagine this. You're 21 years old, and you discover that your whole life has been built on a lie. The mother you thought you killed is actually alive. That emotional fallout must have been immense.
Yeah, talk about a bombshell. And Berkowitz himself said this discovery just fueled this deep rage and this sense of betrayal, almost like he was looking for someone to blame.
Right. And that brings us to the whole Satanism aspect. Berkowitz claimed that he joined a cult. They worshipped demons, performed animal sacrifices.
Okay, now things are getting really creepy. But how much did this supposed cult actually influence his actions? Was this a genuine belief or a way to deflect blame?
That's really where the experts disagree. Some believe he was exaggerating the cult's role to appear insane, while others think it was a genuine factor in his descent into violence.
It's certainly a chilling thought, and it definitely added to the public's fear and fascination with the Son of Sam.
Absolutely. It played right into the anxieties of the time, creating this almost mythical figure lurking in the shadows of the city.
That's actually the perfect place to pause for now. But don't go anywhere. We're just scratching the surface. In part 2 of our deep dive into the life and crimes of the infamous Son of Sam, we'll uncover the chilling details of his crimes, his haunting confessions, and the dark legacy he left behind. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. This story is only getting more unsettling.
It's amazing how something so small can lead to such a massive breakthrough.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It's a chilling thought, and it makes you wonder, was this the breaking point for him?
And unfortunately, in this case, it was just the beginning. After this attack, Berkowitz makes a decision that will forever shape his legacy.
It's a scary thought, and it's a reminder that these seemingly isolated incidents can often be warning signs of something much darker to come.
It was a crucial piece of evidence, solidified their case, provided tangible proof of his guilt.
It's certainly a fascinating psychological puzzle. So what happened next?
Absolutely. It was a major turning point in the case, and it paved the way for Berkowitz's confession.
Wait, what? A parking ticket?
And that's where things get even more complicated, because when they ask him about his motives, his explanation is, well, let's just say it's not what anyone expected.
Why the switch from a knife to a gun? So let's talk about the crimes themselves. One of the most striking things is the seemingly random nature of his victims. You've got young people, mostly women with long dark hair, but there doesn't seem to be any other connection between them.
And that's precisely what made it so terrifying for New Yorkers. It really was like anyone could be next. Women were cutting their hair short, dyeing it blonde, avoiding going out alone at night.
It's crazy to think about the level of fear he instilled. And then there's the letters, right? He taunts the police, he taunts the public, signing them Son of Sam. That line, hello from the gutters of New York City, straight out of a horror movie.
Those letters, they give us a glimpse into Berkowitz's mindset at the time. He's swinging between expressions of remorse and boasting about his work, further fueling the public's obsession with the case.
It was a media frenzy unlike anything the city had seen before. And the pressure on the police must have been immense. They were facing the largest manhunt in New York City history, trying to piece together clues from a killer who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
And with every passing day, the city held its breath, just waiting for the next attack, wondering who would be next. It was a race against time, and the stakes couldn't have been higher.
Yeah, it's almost hard to imagine what it must have been like living in New York during that time, knowing this killer was out there, seemingly choosing his victims at random.
It really was a summer of terror, and it all culminated in this massive citywide investigation. Detectives chasing down countless leads, analyzing bullets, trying to decipher meaning from those cryptic letters that Berkowitz sent.
It was a puzzle with so many pieces, and the pressure to solve it was immense. But before we get into how it all unraveled, let's go back to that pivotal moment in Berkowitz's life, the discovery of his adoption.
This is where things take an even darker turn psychologically. Imagine you're 21 and you find out that the woman you believe you killed in childbirth is actually alive.
Wow, what kind of emotional whiplash would that cause?
It's almost impossible to comprehend. And on top of that, Berkowitz learns that his birth name was Richard David Falco, born to Betty and Tony Falco. But there's another twist.
Oh, there's more. This is like an onion of family secrets.
Exactly. Betty Falco revealed that Tony Falco wasn't actually Berkowitz's biological father. His real father was a man named Joseph Kleinman, a married businessman who had an affair with Betty.
So not only does he find out his mother is alive, but he's also the product of this hidden affair. You mentioned earlier that Berkowitz felt like he didn't belong, like he was an outsider. This must have amplified those feelings tenfold.
Absolutely. And you have to remember this revelation happened right before his killing spree began. It's like all this repressed anger, this sense of being unwanted just suddenly explodes.
It's a chilling thought, and it makes you wonder, was this the breaking point for him?
It's certainly a possibility. In fact, Berkowitz admitted to feeling a strong urge to kill, specifically targeting his biological family. Luckily, he never acted on those impulses, but it shows how volatile his mental state was at that time.
So this simmering rage is there, and then we have the first known attack. Christmas Eve, 1975. Berkowitz, armed with a knife, attacks a 14-year-old girl in the Bronx.
This is a turning point. It marks a transition from internal turmoil to outward violence. Thankfully, the girl managed to fight back and escape, but it's a clear sign that things are escalating.
It's a scary thought, and it's a reminder that these seemingly isolated incidents can often be warning signs of something much darker to come.
And unfortunately, in this case, it was just the beginning. After this attack, Berkowitz makes a decision that will forever shape his legacy. He decides to use a gun.
Why the switch from a knife to a gun?
He acquired a .44 caliber Bulldog revolver. And the reason he gave? Chilling. He wanted to create a distance, a sense of detachment from his victims.
So it's not just about the violence, it's about control. It's about removing himself emotionally from the act of killing.
Exactly. It speaks to a level of premeditation, like a deliberate effort to exert power over others.
And now we're on the precipice of the Son of Sam's reign of terror. July 29th, 1976. Jody Valenti and Donna Lauria become his first shooting victims. They're just sitting in a parked car, talking, laughing, when Berkowitz approaches and opens fire.
It's the randomness of it all that's so terrifying. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. There was no connection, no motive, other than this seemingly insatiable need to kill.
It's like something out of a nightmare. And from this point on, the city is gripped by fear. Berkowitz is stalking his victims, often young couples in parked cars, or young women walking alone at night.
Yeah, his modus operandi is to approach quickly, fire at close range, often without warning. It's brutal, efficient, and it leaves the city reeling.
And the media is having a field day, right? Headlines screaming about the latest shootings, Berkowitz's letters are being published. The whole thing just feeds into this growing sense of panic.
Absolutely. And that line you mentioned earlier, "Hello from the gutters of New York City," it perfectly encapsulates that feeling that evil is lurking everywhere, even in the shadows of the city that never sleeps.
So you have this unprecedented fear, you have the media frenzy, and then you have the largest manhunt in New York City history. The pressure on the police must have been unimaginable.
It was a monumental task. Thousands of tips pouring in, hundreds of detectives working around the clock, all desperately trying to connect the dots and stop this seemingly unstoppable killer.
They're chasing every lead, analyzing bullets, dissecting his letters, interviewing countless potential witnesses. It's a massive undertaking, and the whole city's holding its breath waiting for answers.
And while the police are racing against time, Berkowitz continues his spree. Each new attack brings fresh waves of terror, pushing the city to the brink. It's a nightmare scenario, a city held captive by fear.
It's hard to imagine the level of paranoia that must have existed. People changing their routines, avoiding going out at night. It must have felt like the Son of Sam was everywhere and nowhere all at the same time.
And just when it seemed like he would never be caught, a seemingly insignificant parking ticket changes everything.
Wait, what? A parking ticket?
You heard that right. On the night Berkowitz killed Stacy Moskowitz and Robert Violante, he received a parking ticket for parking too close to a fire hydrant. It was a seemingly insignificant detail, but it proved to be his undoing.
It's amazing how something so small can lead to such a massive breakthrough. So what happened next?
Berkowitz paid the ticket by mail, and the police, meticulously following every lead, traced the license plate number to his name. They already had him on their radar for other reasons, harassing his neighbors, shooting his neighbor's dog, but they hadn't connected him to the murders yet.
So they had his name, but they were missing that one crucial piece of the puzzle, and this parking ticket provided it.
Precisely. It placed him at the scene of the Moskowitz and Violante shooting, and from there, the investigation intensified. Surveillance on his apartment. Digging deeper into his background, reviewing those past complaints, it all started to point to Berkowitz as the Son of Sam.
And finally, on August 10th, 1977, after months of terror, the manhunt ends.
A team of detectives surrounds Berkowitz's apartment, ready to make the arrest. It's the culmination of a tireless investigation, and the city is watching, waiting, hoping for an end to this nightmare.
And what happens when they finally confront him?
It's almost anticlimactic. Berkowitz emerges from his apartment, sees the detectives, and just calmly submits to arrest. No chase, no standoff, no final act of defiance. He simply says, "Well, you finally got me."
It's almost hard to believe that after all that fear, all that chaos, the capture of the son of Sam was so quiet.
But the quiet didn't last long. The news of his arrest spread like wildfire, bringing a collective sigh of relief across the city. But even though the reign of terror was over, the questions, well, they were just beginning.
So the manhunt's over. But now the real work begins, right? Trying to understand what drove Berkowitz to commit these horrific acts.
Exactly. And the first thing investigators do is search Berkowitz's car. Inside, they find a .44 caliber Bulldog revolver, the same type used in all the Son of Sam shootings.
Talk about a smoking gun, literally.
It was a crucial piece of evidence, solidified their case, provided tangible proof of his guilt.
You mentioned earlier the immense pressure the police were under. I can only imagine that feeling of relief when they found that gun. Knowing they had the right man, that the city could finally breathe again.
Absolutely. It was a major turning point in the case, and it paved the way for Berkowitz's confession.
And during his interrogation, Berkowitz doesn't hold back, does he? He confesses to everything, providing details that only the killer could have known.
It's chilling, really. He describes how he stalked his victims, the locations of the shootings, even the specific type of ammunition he used, all delivered with this eerie calmness, almost like he was recounting a grocery list.
It's so strange, that detachment, like he's completely separated himself from the emotional weight of his actions.
And that's where things get even more complicated, because when they ask him about his motives, his explanation is, well, let's just say it's not what anyone expected.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What does he say?
Berkowitz claims that he was following orders from a demon. That spoke to him through his neighbor's dog.
Wait, seriously, a demon dog?
I know, it sounds unbelievable, but that's his story. He claims that his neighbor, Sam Carr, was possessed by this demon named Harvey, and Harvey was the one giving him the orders to kill.
So is he truly insane? Or is this a calculated attempt to plead insanity, avoid responsibility?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one that's been debated for decades. Some experts believe that he was genuinely suffering from a delusional disorder, while others think he was simply a manipulative sociopath trying to game the system.
It's certainly a fascinating psychological puzzle. So what happened next?
Despite his claims of demonic possession, Berkowitz was deemed competent to stand trial. The court didn't buy the demon dog story, and ultimately he was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences.
Wow, so the son of Sam is finally behind bars. But the mystery surrounding his motives, his sanity, the true nature of his darkness, that all remains.
It's a case that continues to fascinate and horrify, isn't it? It's a chilling reminder of the unpredictable nature of violence and the depths of human depravity. And even though we have access to all this information, court transcripts, interviews, psychological analyses, we may never truly understand what drove David Berkowitz to become the son of Sam.
Yeah. It's a sobering thought. We can delve into the facts, analyze the evidence, but sometimes the human mind remains an enigma. There are some doors we may never be able to unlock.
And perhaps that's what makes this case so compelling. It forces us to confront the unknown, to grapple with the possibility that there are some things we may never fully understand.
Well, you've definitely given us a lot to think about today. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive into one of America's most infamous serial killers.
It's been my pleasure. And for our listeners, I encourage you to keep digging. There's a wealth of information out there about the Son of Sam case, and I think it's important to engage with these difficult topics, to try to understand the darkness that sometimes exists within humanity.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the mind of Son of Sam. We'll be back next week with another chilling case that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.
Until then, stay safe
Stay informed.
and sleep with the lights on.
See you next time.
Bye.